Welcome to day 3 of the Pioneer Startup Network Post Show. I'm Lauren McNair with Alexis Jennings. Hey Alexis, did you notice we got a brand new backdrop?
I did, and I think it looks really fantastic.
Me too.
Let's jump right into our show today. To kick off day 3, Matthew Allard hosted Digital Transformation with Gamification or Immersion Experience, a session around how applying game-playing elements can change multiple industries. Here's a quick recap of Allard's morning session.
Started in, kind of digital video, your acquisition was still on analog tape. Okay, so I'm kind of dating myself. But analog tape. So you take an analog tape and you digitize it into the system, and then you could do all this really cool stuff because suddenly it was digital. You could actually edit video in a non-linear way, and that was revolutionary, 25 years ago. Things that require insight, innovation, the connection to human interest. This is where human beings, are really a necessary part. And I bring this out because, again, one of the interesting digital transformations for me in design, like industrial design, is this area of generative design, where designers historically, we saw a digital transformation in our ages of moving from paper drafting to CAD systems.
Yep.
And generative design is kind of the next evolution there, where, the engineer will describe the problem more broadly.
This morning, we heard some interesting sports talk about the marketing opportunities college athletes will have. The legislation will allow them to benefit from the use of their names, pictures, and likeness. During the College Athletes Marketing a New Generation of Sports Brands session with Trisha Betron, she and a few guests talked about the opportunities that could be ahead for these athletes.
College athletes have made great strides in working in the courts and also state legislatures to repeal this restriction on the making money. In fact, last year, California legislature passed the Fair Play to Pay Act. So for the first time, college athletes can actually make money.
Basketball was the thing that I felt like could make all of my goals and dreams come true. So being a member of the Fab Five and going to the University of Michigan is probably the greatest time of my life. And playing basketball, doing what you love, a lot of times at that point of being an athlete, you're not necessarily focused on the finance. And so we're just out there playing ball, doing what we can to try to make a name for ourselves and try to represent for our school. And then we're fortunate enough to start wearing long shorts, black shoes, black socks, and cut our heads bald and things of that nature, and didn't necessarily understood that these things were becoming phenomenons that were being sold by the shoe companies, being sold by T-shirt companies and hoodies and things of that nature. You walking around campus and you see all of these things happening. And first you're like, that's love.
What Jalen was part of, and I lived it because I was there for a couple of those years, and you mentioned this, Trish, it changed the game. And it changed I think it not only changed college basketball, but also changed college sports and amateur sports forever. I mean, what they were, and again, I'm going to date myself here, but they were the Beatles. And, there was the term, we used to call them the Beatles of basketball. And, I'm dating myself. Let's call it, they were in sync. All right. They were the in sync of basketball. And they were so cool and so trend setting. Not only because first of all, you have to perform, right? They performed on the court and they were great, but what they did in terms of pop culture and what they did in terms of how they looked and how they acted, and listen, they were brash, but they delivered.
On today's Think Forward segment, Finding Your Then, Alexa Callahan provides some helpful tips on how to avoid boredom in your everyday work life.
Did you know the number one reason why people leave their jobs is due to boredom? Boredom isn't just having a lack of things to do. It can also be a lack of challenge, empowerment, or simply being disconnected from a broader sense of purpose. So how can we prevent occupational apathy and make sure we're in tune with where we want to be professionally? One of our favorite techniques for doing this comes from a simple framework developed by the co-founder of Venn, Jamie Laufer. She calls it, finding your Venn. This framework is a simple method to help you find the intersection between what you're good at, what you want to do, and what's possible. To get started, you'll simply grab a blank sheet of paper or the template from our toolkit and draw 3 overlapping circles, labeling them each as talent, passion, and potential. In your talent circle, jot down what you believe is the type of work you're best at and why. Consider when, why, and for what other people have come to you for in the past, or even what work you've been proudest of. Now, in your passion circle, list out what hobbies, activities, or interests you have outside of your current occupation. What do you do on your day off? When do you feel best outside of work? What's the next thing you want to learn? Finally, in your potential circle, consider what career you'd pick if there were no limits, or even what you imagine you'd be doing when you first started, and how that's changed, if at all. From here, look at your Venn diagram and identify patterns or themes that show up. List out the roles, responsibilities, environments, or even projects that show up. Unsure where to take it from here? We may know someone who can help. Check out our toolkit entry at thinkforward.co for more information.
Earlier this afternoon, we also had an inside look into the gaming industry with Sacred Heart's very own Josh Stewart, the director of the sports management program.
So funny that you mentioned normal. And I'm wondering, now that you say that, going back, like, are there going to be unforeseen challenges for esports? In other words, it's flourished, it's doing great. Like you said, you're locked in, you're stuck at home, and nothing better to do than game, right? And now when you go back to a little bit more of normal, where maybe you can go back to a stadium and watch games, and TV ratings for professional sports come back, because they've been down. Is there going to be a crush that's going to hurt esports, or is it just a different market, different kids and curious?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the latter, where it's like, I think it just kind of almost gave more of a wide approval, where it's like kind of acceptable now for you to play Fortnite and War, some of these things that maybe the more public would have frowned on. You see some of these statistics from, the health organization, how great gaming is for mental health, and, how benefits. And, I just saw some statistic that overall gamers are healthier than the average American. And, it's just kind of these stereotypes that maybe the public and the public perception of associated with gaming and, streaming and making YouTube videos, it's kind of gone away. I think the stigma attached to it is really kind of brushing away. And
what a great way to finish out day 3 of the Pioneer Startup Network. Don't miss out on more of the intriguing sessions we have in store for you tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. I'm Alexis Jennings with Lauren McNair. Have a good night.